my experience that I have and the knowledge I have was a culmination of all the trials and tribulations that I went through throughout the career, my failures, my successes, and the work that I've done.
Welcome to another inspiring episode of Knocking Doors Down. Your host, Jason LaChance here. Of course, through my addiction struggles as well as my mental health struggles that include anxiety and depression, I've developed a passion for speaking with those who have turned their adversities into their greatest advantages. And I'm excited for an incredible guest, Sedric Louissaint. Sedric grew up with a lot of childhood adversity, including the divorce of his parents, and both of his parents coming from immigrant families. During Sedric's childhood and teenage years, he was making disempowering decisions until he had some amazing mentors come his way. Sedric became a father at a very early age, but with his never quit attitude, Sedric was determined to be a success. Not only did Sedric become a cybersecurity expert, he also owns a luxury car rental business and is an MMA fighter. Sedric Louissaint shares with you how he's knocking doors down. While you're checking Knocking Doors Down out, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you get a lot out of this podcast, share with a friend. And don't forget the archive of interviews we have. Bam Margera, Brandon Novak, Kat Von D, Charlie Sheen, Edward Furlong, Kelly Osborne. The list goes on and on of amazing guests that have been on the podcast, sharing how they have found purposeful lives. Speaking of purpose, how about a lifestyle brand with purpose? 5150 LTM. That's right. Not only is it a lifestyle brand that can fit whatever it is you're trying to achieve in life, but they give back to the community. And you, the listener of Knocking Doors Down, get 20% off every time you shop at 5150 LTM. All you have to do is use the code KDD20 at checkout and get 20% off. And how does 5150 give back to the community? Portions of the sales benefit the Carlos Vieira Foundation. Their three amazing programs: the Race to End the Stigma, the Race for Autism, and the Race to be Drug-Free. More on the Carlos Vieira Foundation, go to carlosvierafoundation.org. All right, Sedric, we were talking about before I hit the record button, three things you're grateful for today.
I'm grateful that I woke up. That's one. I'm grateful for life, health. I'm grateful for my riches, and I don't mean in money or anything in that aspect. I'm talking about my riches as in my friendships, relationships, etc. And my family. It's the top three.
Well, we're going to talk family and lineage because you've got just a story that's fascinating to me. But what is immediate family? Misses, couple kids?
Yeah. So I have a wife. My wife Louisa. She's my rock, and then my son Jace. He's about 8 years old. Is a ball of joy. Full of energy.
As they're supposed to be, right?
Yeah. Still struggling to keep up.
Well, being that you're an MMA fighter, entrepreneur, how does he react to dad, stepping in the cage? Sometimes those things can be frightening for a kid, or is he like, take it to him, dad?
Yeah, actually you can hear him in some of the fights too, in the background screaming chants just like that. But he loves it. He actually trains mixed martial arts himself, so he's been around the gym since he's been a baby, since I started training. So he's one of the gym kids.
I love it, man. It's always cool when our kids kind of dig it. I worked in radio for a long time, and my kids were always there, and had them on the radio and learning different little, in little drops and all that. It's cool when you can bring your kids into that kind of stuff. I love it.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, we're going to be talking, the entrepreneur side of what you're doing. Cybersecurity, and you've got I'd say a luxury car rental company that, boy, I get down that way, I'm going to have to hit you up. But
we'll hook you up.
All right. Yeah, I need to drive a Porsche for the day. Can you make that happen, Sid?
It depends on which type, and we can make it happen with enough in advance, enough time.
All right. But I want to know, because your family from Haiti, so a Haitian immigrant. Were you born there, or were you born here after your folks came here?
So I'm actually was the firstborn generation for my family. They refer to us as anchor babies,
Okay.
as I've heard it the term be coined nowadays. But yeah, so my family immigrated from Haiti and Cuba, from both my maternal and paternal side. Um, so yeah, we've started out in New York and then ended up in Florida.
Haitian and Cuban. And that's some tough lineage of people for what was going on. I'm guessing that was what, maybe 30, 40 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, so my grandfather first came over and it was 70s, I think it was 72,
Okay.
72 or 73.
And that was from Haiti.
Yeah.
So mom's side was the Cuban side.
No, sorry, I'm mistaken. My grandfather, my father's side, hit my paternal side's from the Cuba, my
Okay.
maternal from Haiti. But yeah, my grandfather on my mother's side came over in like 70, 72. Started off as a taxi cab driver, and paved his way for to bring my mother and her sisters over. And then
Oh wow.
eventually, we came about.
So grandpa came first and then family later. That I've heard that a lot with a lot of people, that it was, that struggle. And of course, I mean 70s, geez, we're talking uh when Fidel Castro's just coming into power in Cuba. And of course, the things that were going on in Haiti and sadly still continue. And, that's a lot of
Yep,
strife to come through.
yep. Still dealing with that. My uncle actually got deported not too long ago, back to Haiti.
Uh,
Um, so dealing with that, got family members who are still trying to come over here on certain programs to just seek better work opportunities. So that's just it's another thing I'm grateful for. Just the opportunities here, and just try to pay it forward.
well, I mean, generational trauma is such a real thing that I don't think people touch on enough. What was childhood growing up for you? What was it like?
Childhood, man, it was all over the place really at first. So again, like I said, I started out New York, Brooklyn as a baby. Up until about I was like what 5 or 6 years old, you had moved out to Long Island. There's a little bit change of pace from the city life, and it's crazy. It's a long time ago, but I vividly remember. We moved to a house with a pool. Um, at first in Central Islip, we stayed there for like a good 2 to 3 years. And unfortunately, my parents at the time they got divorced.
Mhm.
So, single mother household for a little bit, moved around. Eventually, I had to move to Florida. We moved to Florida at it was back in 2004. My mom was working as a nurse at the time, working multiple jobs. At one point, we went through some tough times, a lot of
Yeah.
transitions. And luckily enough, my mother was able to create the opportunity for us to come down here to Florida while, she worked up north because the pay was a lot better. The cost of living in Florida was a little bit cheaper, so it was helped the money go a little bit longer. It's a funny story, the when we moved down here, the week after we moved down here, we got the first hurricane that my family's ever experienced, and then got hit with another two hurricanes back to back. We were out of power for about 2 months, 2 to 3 months. And we dealt with schools, delays, etc., and dealing with no AC down south and being just new and just getting acclimated to the heat. It was miserable. I remember that's something that probably gives me PTSD to this day.
Oh,
But yeah, yeah. So grew up in a little suburb here in Deltona, Florida, and ever since then, been trying to pave my way. Eventually, graduated here from a local high school. Went off, joined the workforce. Went back to school, found my niche, and became a cybersecurity expert. And throughout the time, as since I was a kid, I've always been the one to compete in sports. So
sure.
I grew up wrestling. I boxed at a local gym, Taino's. Actually, it's no longer here no more. It was like a nonprofit. City got rid of it. Really need to bring it back.
Mm.
But yeah, so I just kept the itch going. I started my initial dream was to come out of school and transition into MMA full time. But life has its way of throwing curveballs at you, and you gotta adjust your plans. I became a teen father at a young age, and was forced to kind of pivot. And during that pivot time frame, I found my passion for cybersecurity, and I found my way into the field, and I've been chucking away ever since. Been about 8, 9 years now, and I had a couple years ago, after I kind of thought and sat back and was like, well, I kind of made up for my decisions at an earlier age, and I'm at the point where I can kind of circle back on my dream of being a fighter, and started competing again at a professional level, and now I'm doing both. I'm a cybersecurity expert and professional mixed martial arts fighter.
Let me jump back a little bit to the move to Florida, and that's tough, man. When parents go through divorce, my kids, I worry about that with them. That maybe there's things that they have yet to understand that they're angry about, or any of the angst that can come along with it. I mean, were you pretty good at staying out of trouble, being involved? Because you said you were really focused on sports, and was that a real good outlet, or did you kind of have some situations where it was the trouble
Yeah,
steered you the
yeah,
opposite
yeah.
way?
Well, it was kind of both. So like sports was an outlet. To say did it steer me out of trouble? I would say yes, it did steer me out of trouble. But did it steer me completely out of trouble? No, I've had my fair share of hiccups when I was a kid growing up, but grateful for each and every one of them because they made me who I am today.
Do you have a recollection of any one of them that really smartened you up?
Um, I would say, mm, the best way I can put it is just be careful who you hang around. That's it.
Yeah.
Hang around the wrong person, you can ruin your entire life.
Well, our environments are such a huge, important part of what we do because, as I was telling you before we started, I eventually falling into alcoholism, and I grew up in a home of addiction, and I consciously was like, oh, I'm going to steer away from this, but then, the ignorance of, well, everybody's just having fun. This is just fun. Well, it was fun until it wasn't fun and it became a necessity. And that was the environment I was in, the people that I thought were my friends or whatever it was. That was like all we did. It was like, how is that any substance whatsoever? It's not.
Yeah.
Let's get more into teenager set. I want to hear more about you boxing, wrestling. Was it a coach? Because I mean, you're a jack dude. You're a pretty good sized cat. Was there like a coach that was like, "Hey, Louissaint, over here"?
It's funny you say that. There was a coach that did that when I was in eighth grade, but I wasn't this jacked back then. Trust me, I was a small, little, scrawny kid with a gap tooth. Went through the whole braces phase, etc. But yeah, one day we used to have this junior high program. So in eighth grade, as you transition to your freshman year to high school, they have towards the end of your eighth grade year, they used to bus over the kids from the local high schools that are going to be coming over to kind of give them like a warm up into the football scene, and kind of like weed out the kids and see who's going to actually be able to get on the team, etc. And one day after practice, we're walking down from the football field, me and my buddy Zach Gazda, wrestling coach Keith Wallace. Never forget this. He pulled us to the side and introduced us to the wrestling. We've seen the guys wrestling in there, and we thought it was awesome, and we ended up joining the team and been a part of that community ever since.
Those mentors are so incredibly important, aren't they?
For sure, for sure. The mentors are definitely very important in every aspect, especially during that time in life as such a young man coming into the world and having kind of the senior adults that have been through high school and that are still right on that cusp of figuring life out, and hearing their perspective and having their guidance was definitely very fruitful.
Is there any big takeaways still at this day and age? Because I'll tell you my funny story. So, big professional wrestling fan, actually worked in it, not in the ring, commentary and announcer. Because I'm like 6'2", 6'3", buck 80, soaking wet at most. So I get my ass whipped. But I did try in high school, but it was the same time as basketball season, and there was a possibility of pulling them both off, and that was the hardest practice that I had ever went through, was wrestling. One was enough, and I was like, man, I thought basketball was tough at times.
Yeah, that's usually the same response we hear from all the basketball players. Yeah, because it's winter season, same sport, same style. But yeah, wrestling is a very tough sport. I've had those days where I've wanted to quit, but again, wrestling is just something that it was very fruitful in the lessons that have taught me, because it's taught me to fight through those times where you feel like you want to quit, like you need to quit, that you feel like you can't keep going. So it's just those you learn who you really are, and even those times where you do get broken down, it's how you react, and you come back from that. So it's like those little life lessons you pull out of that's where, when you hear a lot of people say like wrestling is like no other, because you really learn about yourself. It's only you out there. It's a team sport because you have to prepare with teammates, but when it comes that time, it's mano y mano.
And there's something to be said about that, because you're such a nice, jovial person, but I've caught some of the highlights of some of your fights, and it's such an interesting thing that a fighter's brain has that ability to do, to step in there and just be like, click over to something different. Like, how do you even get into that like mindset? I'm always so fascinated by the fighter's mindset.
Yeah, so it's funny. A lot of people always like ask like, how do I do it? How do I switch? To be honest, um, whenever I'm like in the back, it's a process. It's like it's a warm up. It's because it's not like an immediate thing. Because honestly, during practice, you're never thinking about harming a person. You're just thinking
Sure.
about getting better and working your technique to the best of your ability. When it comes fight time, it's a different level, because you have it all, the bright lights, the adrenaline. It's a lot different. And it's a lot more different. And during that time frame, it's like when you're in the bag, you like warming up, listening to your music, you're vibing, your coach, the people you have around you. Though that's what really helps you make that switch, because the people that are in your corner, they should be people that are firing you up, getting ready for battle. Whether because you're starting a battle where you basically agreed that you could potentially die.
Yeah.
So that speech, that warm up, that background, you better have the right people around you to make sure that you're in the right mindset. And that's what I have, and that's how I'm able to make that switch. I know I've trained hard, and that the people around me have armed me with the tools necessary to succeed, and they make sure that I know that before I go out there.
And like you mentioned, that I mean, there is that potential of serious injury or worse. Granted, of course, thank goodness to the rules now of MMA, we've not had anything serious in a really long time. But
Yeah.
um how do you get in that mindset, kind of push that out? And the reason I ask is, I kind of work with especially younger people that are entering the recovery period, and that there's like that fear of the relapse or something. And I've kind of compared it to fighting, but I've not. I've just sparred. I did jujitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, for a while, but I mean, from a real competitor, like how do you hone that in, and maybe put the, lack of a better term, the failure or the not desired outcome out of your mind.
So yeah, I'd be lying if I told you if I don't think about the not desired outcome, losing in front of family. The worst thing possible to me is not walking out alive. That's it.
Sure.
Losing per se. If I'm winning, as long as I'm able to walk out of there with my health and conscious, that's a win to me, no matter what. A lot of other people, the worst thing for them, their backs up against the wall, and they really need that to win that specific fight to continue their career, because their family's livelihood depends on it. I've been able to kind of alleviate that because I'm so diverse in what I'm doing, but I can see how there's a lot of other people when they're and it's kind of tough to overcome. But that's what's really helped me be able to not really focus on that, because I realize that it's not the end of the world if I do lose. um just walking out of there with my health is a win for me. But ultimately I want to win.
Yeah.
I want to win. And even when sometimes when I'm thinking about losing, I try to just again think about all the preparation that I've done, to know that I've done everything in my power to give me the best chance possible to win. And if things don't turn out my way, then we'll hit the drawing board and assess and figure out what went wrong, do a post-mortem, and make changes if need be.
A post-mortem, that's a pretty good
Yeah.
term for but the record, you got a pretty solid record though, bro.
Yeah. For now, yeah, I got 6 fights in a row. I've won, my first 2 fights when I was like 19, back in like 2014, 2015. I lost my first two. First one very controversial. Second one was definitive loss. Took like a 7-year hiatus break again because I had to focus on getting my career right. Um, and then came back and been on a 6-fight winning streak since then. So yeah, I'm 2-0 as a pro now. I'm looking to go 3-0 sometime in July.
Right on. I dig it, man. Let me ask you, with kind of the stuff that was around, time of your parents' divorce, the moving, obviously moving to Florida, getting 3 tornadoes. It's like,
Yeah, the 3 hurricanes is crazy, man. It's like it's like wow. And it's funny, there were tornadoes that spawned from the hurricanes at the time too. This
right.
I learned that. I had to learn the difference between that.
Yeah, because
But
they'll hit the land for sure there in Florida. It's bananas, man.
yeah.
Let me ask you though, did you go through a period, because that's a tough thing when we as young men and young women as well, but don't have that father figure there. Did you go through periods of really feeling maybe detached, like an outsider?
So yeah, I did go through that period, but to say I didn't have a father figure outright, that'd be a lie. My stepfather, he definitely stepped up to be that father figure. I would say like any other kid who's dealing with a brand new stepfather, at first he probably rejected it, didn't really wasn't accepting of it. But ultimately later on in life, I was able to see back the lessons that you're trying to instill in me and still take heed of it. Um, so I did have a period of time where, I I felt like I didn't have that father figure per se, but I did have a stepfather who, actively tried and to steer me in the right ways and give me that guidance.
That's a tough role, man. That's a tough place for both the child and the step parent to be in. It is.
Yeah, definitely is. But I'll say, as my perspective on life itself and on that situation from when I was a child to now has changed 360, and you start to learn things on why your parents did certain things, or you understand, why, the options of why the reasons could be, and learn to be grateful.
And I'm sure many more came up once you were a parent.
Oh yeah. I can tell you right. Yep.
Oh no, tell me. That's why I'm asking. I'm like,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I've noticed.
Like I always wanted that monogamous family. Like at first, I always wanted to, like, I was so angry at my father for letting my family split up and etc. But I realized that sometimes it may not be the best thing for the child for two people to stay together,
Mhm.
especially if it's a toxic environment. It could be more harmful than good. So that's one thing I can say for sure that I've learned as an adult, so I can understand why um, things didn't work out.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that for sure. I totally know where you're coming from, but I definitely have some of the moments where with my own kids and I say something or I do something and I'm like, oh damn, my mom was right.
Oh yeah, yep. Or like when your mom's like, you'll understand when you have your kid and you're dealing with some of the same items. Like I deal with my mom. I talk to my mom about my son and some of the wacky things he does. Sometimes she's like, oh yeah, you used to do that, etc. And you're like, oh okay.
Heck yeah, it is tough, man, for sure. But so we took this big hiatus from MMA. What really presented the time to get back? Like what did that, just that passion and desire never leave? Was it that you got the other part of your career home settled? What really was that ponderance?
So it's like a culmination of everything, pretty much. You just said, it never left. I just had to put it to the side because I was hearing in the background, hey, you're not making any money, you risk hurting yourself, etc. I was dealing with that kind of criticism from a family for back then. It's not to say that they were coming from a negative light, but I could understand where they were coming from at the time. So fortunately, unfortunately, it's a little bit of both that I kind of put everything on hold and kind of got right in my cybersecurity career. And I noticed that, hey, I finally am living a life where I have the time to, work in training and I'm not feeling like I don't have any energy at the end of the day. I'm pretty lax. So it afforded me the opportunity to get back into the gym once I was able to find that work-life balance. And ever since then, I've just been, leveraging the work-life balance that I have of working in cybersecurity to be able to continue to chase that dream.
Well, let's talk that work life balance. I mean, yeah, go check Sed's social media. You see in amazing shape. That takes time. That takes dedication. Let's talk about that dedication. Let's talk. Just give me a day. Like, what is the day for you, man?
So camp, I'll give you a day. So in camp training for a fight, got to take advantage of every single hour of the day. I know a lot of get probably slack about this, but there are times where I'm only sleeping 4 hours,
Hmm.
4 hours a night. I'm very grateful if I can get a full 8 hours, but most of the time I'm operating off 4 to 6 hours of sleep. Um, at five, waking up around 4:30 to get out the door by 5:30. Get over to Lato's strength and conditioning. Shout out to Alex Lato, that's my strength and conditioning coach. Work out there for a couple hours, 2 hours, be back home by 8:30, showered and ready to hit the computer by 9. At that point, working throughout the day, whether it's from up until about 5 to 6, for the day shift kind of things, doing consulting. I'm doing my cybersecurity work, and at that time period, I take a break. We'll come around 5 to 6 to make it over to training again. But this training is at another gym. This is for actual MMA, boxing, jiu-jitsu, etc. That I do that training from 6 to 9 with sparring. Come home, dinner, dinner. Finish up any other work-related items that I have to do for any of the businesses. Um, and at that point, go to sleep, wake up, do it again. Yeah, and that's pretty much how it is. It's like wash, rinse, repeat.
That's a challenge. How do you balance that with that kind of workload? Fatherhood, relationship. Obviously, you're fitting the work in there because it's just a thing we got to make a living. Because I don't know about you, the streets isn't too damn comfortable. I'm not cut out for that. It's not my
That's
it's
a
not my
fact.
get down.
Yeah, that's what gets me up, because the streets ain't too comfortable, just like how you just said. So those times where I feel like I don't want to get up, or I feel like I don't want to do something, I just think about that right there. Think about that aspect of being homeless again, and just don't ever want to deal with that. So I'm always working. I always want to keep working.
Yeah.
Always want to keep working, never stop.
Well, and that's the parallel I try to, again, going back to kind of some of the newcomers to recovery, draw for them, and why I love talking about fighting. I mean, we've had a couple of different people on here. Terrence McKinney, Chuck Liddell actually came in studio, and even professional wrestling, which I love. People give it a bad rap, but don't realize how much time and dedication for those that are successful put into that endeavor. And I just think it's I just think with anything in life, with success, because I mean, you're an entrepreneur too. It's just, you get back what you put in, and sometimes you get back more than you expected when you put in.
Yep. Yep. You deal with that. Sometimes you may put in a lot and you don't get back anything. Sometimes, you could hit that jackpot where you only put in so much, and right when you're at that quitting point, you get a lot out of it and you keep going. But in the end, there nothing happens with luck in life, and at least my philosophy, you know, you gotta you gotta be ready to execute on the opportunities that present itself. That the opportunity may present itself on a luck aspect, but it's up to you to, take advantage of it.
What is this saying? Luck equals opportunity plus preparedness.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I suck at remembering saying. I always butcher them.
Damn it, Jason! I'm a cybersecurity expert, not a philosopher here. Hey, me too,
Yeah.
man. I butchered so many of them, so many of them. But I think it's so important because the end of the day, like it truly is like you're talking about with wrestling. It's us against us. Like that's why it's called self-esteem. Is nobody can give us a trophy to fill that hole, or for me, there was no more drunk I could get, Cedric. I just couldn't. It wasn't, and it certainly didn't got to the end of not working. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get to that point where it's like, yeah, all right, enough's enough.
Yeah, because there truly is no outside solution to internal problems. The things that we think about ourselves and feel about ourselves, we're going to have to do that work.
Yep. Some people don't, unfortunately, don't realize that.
So that leads me to ask you, you kind of gave a breath there. Did you have some people that maybe it was you knew in your younger days that when your hard work success started paying off, or kind of coming back with the handout, or
Oh man. It's funny. I was doing that still present day. Yeah. Where the sense of entitlement, I'd say in this day and age, I'm not gonna name any specifics or anything, but
sure.
and it's been a common thing that's been spoken about by numerous figures. Just a lot of people have this sense of entitlement where they feel like they're owed something because they knew somebody at some point in time, where they should have an automatic in or a discount, etc. But that's not how the real world works. um, I'm more than happy to present opportunities for people to grow with me,
Yeah.
but there are no handouts. You got to work for it. That's it. Period. It's
Yeah.
the best way I can say.
When did your entrepreneurial spirit really kick in?
I would say I've always had my entrepreneurial spirit. I was one of those kids that used to sell candy back in school. Buy candy at the store and sell at school for more. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Had family members had me vending water bottles at concerts as a kid. So
Oh.
uh, I was well versed with supply and demand at a young age. uh,
But that's a great thing. I think that's kind of a missing element that, that, like you said, a sense of entitlement. We're seeing it a little more and more societally, and I don't know about you. My radar, my BS radar goes off real quick when someone's like presenting here it is. It's just here for you. It's like, okay,
mhm.
what's the deal? There's something behind this.
Yeah. A lot of things, and it's what a lot of things I'm seeing in life too. Like, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I also started my program, the cybersecurity mentorship and training program, is because there's a lot of smoke out there where people are misguiding and misleading people, and they're not giving them the full and true nitty and gritty picture of what's going on, so they have the full context. Um,
Yeah, tell me
and
about that. Tell me about that mentor program that you're doing.
So yeah, I've always had this kind of ties back into, some people wanting handouts, etc. And I've always had people interested into how I've gotten to where I am in cybersecurity, what I'm doing, etc. I never really had anything I can just point them to because my experience that I have and the knowledge I have was a culmination of all the trials and tribulations that I went through throughout the career, my failures, my successes, and the work that I've done. And a lot of the other people, colleagues that I've had in the field have dealt with there are other individuals that want to get into the field, but they don't want to go down the traditional education path and go to school for 4+ years. Um, and in reality, we don't need individuals that go to school for 4+ years. That's power to you if you do, but we just really need individuals that have the practical skill set to do the job at hand, and you don't really need a degree for that. And there are individuals that I work side by side with on a daily basis that don't have a degree, and they're actually some of the most brightest individuals in the room.
Yeah.
Um, so we started this mentorship and training program, so that way we can help bridge that gap. Because right now there is a talent gap in the cybersecurity field, where there's about 3.5 unfulfilled jobs worldwide, and about 500,000 of those are in the U.S. alone, and it's going to continue to grow. It's going to
Yeah.
continue to grow because not only are there legal and regulatory requirements, it's a money thing. If a company gets hacked, not only are going to lose reputation points, people are not going to want to do business with you. You're going to lose bottom line revenue and market share. Plus, you got the fines you're going to have to deal with, and also the cost of remediation. The man hours to fix whatever the problem was to begin with, and then the also paying for people's identity theft, depending on if there were like any identity information stolen, credit cards, etc.
I mean, and you're right. We're seeing, I don't know how often I'm getting darn alerts like, your credit card information could be compromised from this big box store, this chain, or whatever it is. And it's just, it's one of those sad natures of how technology is today. We're susceptible to this stuff.
Yep. Because we're so intertwined in our daily lives in society, it's not going away. And a lot of the technology and the services that are out there to this day were put out there without security as a forethought in their mind when they were developing these services. So kind of playing catch up in a lot of these areas. Not every organization is,
Hmm.
but there are a lot more organizations I can say from my experience in the field and from my colleagues' experience in the field that there are a lot of places that are still trying to catch up to this day and age. It's with just basic security requirements.
That's bananas. That's like, hey, we built you this house. Well, where's the roof and where are the doors? It's all right. Those can come later. Go ahead and move in. Like, okay.
Yeah. We'll work on it as we go.
Uh, uh,
Yeah.
well, hey, Cedric, I'm a big car guy. I love motorsports, luxury cars, especially sports cars. How you got the cybersecurity business, but you also that entrepreneurial spirit kicked in. Where did the car rental business come about?
So the car rental business, one day I was scrolling on Instagram, and I seen an ad of this guy, and he's advertising how he has luxury cars and he doesn't pay for them, and he went to go ahead and explain how he stopped paying for them. Long story short, he was renting the car out, making money off the car, and the car paid for itself,
Sure.
etc. And got to enjoy it. And I said, hey, well, let me give it a shot. If I break even, I'll be happy. I get to just drive a nice car for free. If I make some money, it'd be nice. So I started with 2 cars, and then from there, I've expanded. Um, I think I'm at about 12 cars now, but it's been a good year and a half. I'll tell you that. We've been in business for almost 2 years now.
What's the name of the car rental place? Where are you located at?
So show up, show out rentals, and we're in Central Florida. So if you're ever flying into the Orlando area, Daytona, wherever, we got you.
What's in the fleet right now?
So we got Ferrari 458 Italia, Mercedes Benz AMG GT43,
Oh,
Dodge Charger Hellcat wide body, BMW i8, we got Corvette C8 Stingray. We got the C7 Stingray as well. Um, what else? We also got some SUVs, Tahoe, Escalade, things. So we got pretty much flavors of every single flavor
Right.
that you
You
might
had me at
like.
the Mercedes AMG GT there, buddy.
Yeah, everyone likes that. That's the grown and sexy right there.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm like I said, big motorsports fan. I'm a big Formula One fan. Lewis Hamilton's my driver, the
Oh,
Mercedes
Formula
team.
One. Yup.
Yeah.
I love Formula.
One of these days I'll be hitting you up when I can afford to actually go to a Formula One race.
Hey, yeah, yeah. I definitely want to make one of those in a lifetime too.
Oh yeah, that's a
Myself.
must, man. So tell me a little more about the cybersecurity business. Kind of what you do, what kind of businesses you help, and more about it.
So pretty much, I work with any and all industries. Every company, just depending on the industry, is subject to certain cybersecurity requirements, per se. Some from a private standpoint, per their own personal rules, and some from a legal standpoint, where they have certain laws where they have to follow. Like any company that takes credit cards are subject to PCI. DSS, which stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. So if you don't follow those rules, Mastercard and Visa could reject your ability to collect payments. That's a big
Mm,
thing.
yeah.
So if you can't collect payments, it's gonna be pretty hard for you to keep the lights on. So I work with industries that are subject to that, hospitals subject to HIPAA, keeping like your protected health information secure, work with industries such as airplane manufacturers, financial institutions. That's another big one, like banks and credit unions. That's what on a consulting side, that's what I work with on a daily basis. Now for the mentorship and training program, we're actually working with individuals that are looking to break into the field, and that either they have previous tech experience and they want to break into cybersecurity, or they may not have any experience at all and they just want to get into cybersecurity. So kind of a couple different niches we're catering to on the mentorship and training aspect.
Right on. If people want to learn more about that, how can they do that?
So if people want to learn more about it, they can go to susos.co. That's going to be SUSOS.co. Also, if you can follow us on Instagram, it's Show Up, Show Out Security. And also my personal Instagram is Show Up, Show Out. So any one of those places, you'll be able to find links to the traffic that'll take you to the right place.
Right on. I know those links are in the podcast description for anyone watching, listening. If you want to reach out to Sedric and just whatever, he's a great guy. Let's see how jovial he'll answer your questions. I guarantee it.
For sure.
Uh, all right. Well, let's jump on over to some fun random questions. All right.
All right.
All right. What do you think the biggest lesson that MMA has taught you?
That everybody thinks they're tough. You really learn, again, this with wrestling too. It's kind of the same thing. It goes back to that. You learn who you are in those moments where you really have to fight back. When you're at that breaking point and where you either have a choice to give up or keep on fighting. So it's like it's just taught me to bring that dog out. I know it's a saying going around, but it's true. It's like when you bring that fire out of you and there's no quit, and it's taught me to keep going and never stop.
Yeah, let me ask you this. I've had other fighters that have said this, is that they've been able to be in certain fights where they're kind of like that. Am I done? Do I have any more? And then they can kind of feel their opponent break, and they're like, oh no, I got the momentum. It may not even appear that to the
Mhm.
onlooker, but it's like, oh, I've just felt the energy of the momentum shift my way.
Yep. When you feel the other person, you feel that you're giving it all, and that you see where their body posture, their mannerisms. You kind of, when you're in there, you and that other person, you understand that energy change. And sometimes that you may feel like you got it, and the other person can snatch it right in front of you. The fight ain't over until it's over. But sometimes you can feel that energy change where you feed off of that other person. Like they could be playing possum like they're hurt,
Mm.
and that can give you extra energy, make you be a little bit more overzealous per se. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But yeah.
All right, here's a fun one. What's the last song you listened to on purpose?
I would say it was a Charlotte DeWitt song. This is like actually a like electronic house dance song. Um, I think it's one of the Formula One EP. Yeah, it's funny you say that. She makes like a soundtrack for Formula One.
Right.
Um, but yeah, one of those songs. Well, there's only three songs on the EP, but yeah, one of Charlotte DeWitt's Formula One EP songs. But yeah, they kind of like get you going.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's even for the Netflix docu series. I mean, it's not really a documentary. They kind of mistell some stories in that thing, but I think they have a soundtrack for it that's out there. You can get them. Like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
well, cool. All right. If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Honestly, if I could have one superpower, it would be to, I would say, be invincible.
Really?
Yep, invincible, and invincible with the time that I can never grow old. And I know the cliche or whatever. People are like, oh, but then you can never age, etc.
All right.
But but yeah, because I would like to continue to enjoy life. I know one day I'm gonna expire, and it's gonna suck, but
Oh, and I think that's what was I watching yesterday? I can't even remember, but it was kind of dealing with that and that understanding. I'm middle aged now, and that's very evident to me as I've lost people, and what continues it like, boy, time is fleeting, and I gotta enjoy it and
mhm,
take advantage of it. And it really made me get a good self examination. I mean, you're a guy a full day. I'm like, a productive day. It's not just a full day, it's a day that's productive and filled. Is like, how can my days be more productive and filled? And I
mhm,
I just think that's, I don't know. I think sometimes that's part of it, right?
yep.
Yeah. If you were stuck on a deserted island, you had one movie with you and one music artist greatest hits, what would they be?
One music artist greatest hits in one movie.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that Wilson movie was with Tom Hanks, right? Uh,
Castaway. Little inspiration to get off that damn island, huh?
exactly, exactly. A little inspiration, like how he do it again. And as far as greatest hits, um, let's say, because I listen to all different types of music. But honestly, it would be the Lo-Fi Girls' greatest hits. That's it. It's like chill music. I study and do work too on YouTube. But it's like a YouTube channel, but greatest hits of that
All
because
right.
it's like mellow and keep you kind of chill. Can't really say another like brand artist, but that would be it because to
Yeah.
kind of keep me sane. The
uh,
lo-fi music.
if a movie was made about your life, who would you want to play you? Adult you.
Man, I've never thought about this. Who if a movie would be played about my life, who would I want to play me? Um, Michael B. Jordan, he's a good actor.
Yeah. He's kind of killing it with the fight game
Yeah,
movies. I mean, just,
exactly. That's what I was thinking. The fight game movies, he's killing it.
yeah, the
He's
Creed
killing it.
movies are really, at first I
Yep.
didn't want to like them. I was like the when it was the first one, I'm like, the timeline doesn't even match up. And of course, a Stallone fan, I go and see it. I'm like, oh, that was really good. And then I've subsequently liked the other two a lot as well. But I just
Yeah.
love them fight movies. All right, here's a fun one. What would be something people would be surprised to learn about you? Could be a hobby or something you're into that maybe people wouldn't expect, or
I'm really nice. People think it's because of the MMA, like it's that stigma, you're an angry person, mean, etc. But I'm a really nice and approachable person.
yeah.
And I like nerding out about things. I like talking, having deep conversations about technology and different things along that nature.
It's good to be a nerd. It's funny. I don't know about you. I was definitely made fun of a lot. And it's like the stuff that I was into
Oh yeah, me
is
too.
now really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Like where was that back when I was being
Right.
teased for that, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's this
Now you
Star
got
Wars stuff and this comic book stuff? And,
yeah, now
you
everybody
know,
likes Star Wars and whatnot. Marvel.
see, I was onto some stuff. Um, One more for you here. I always enjoy this one. If you could have dinner with any one person, living or not, who would they be?
I gotta start thinking about these questions because
Well, that's
I
why they're
mean,
random,
yeah,
Cedric.
like because that's these are really good questions. Um, Dinner with one person, living or not. Um, I forgot what. Hold on one second. I can tell you right now.
He's jumping
It
on
would
the
be
web search.
Robert. It would be Robert S. Smith.
Robert S. Smith. I don't know that. What?
Yeah,
Tell me, Robert S. Smith.
he is the richest black man in the world.
Oh,
He,
hey,
I would want to pick his brain to understand his backstory and how he got to where he was.
yeah,
Period.
absolutely. Now I'm gonna have to look him up and find out
Me
more.
too.
Like, all right, how did we get here? Because then you always
Uh,
find like gentlemen like Mr. Smith that people think, oh, they came from a ton of money or something, and most of them no, they came from some of the crappiest settings and situations, and it just goes to show that like the most well nourished things grow out of the fertilizer. You know what I'm saying?
Forged from all those trials and tribulations, you know.
Yeah, the toughest
Uh,
tempered steel, right? Had to be forged and banged away at and heated up, and hey, man, that's just how it's made. Well, hey, before I leave you with the final thoughts, we already connected people with the links to all your websites, Instagram, everything else. All right, hey, the floor is yours. So if there's something that you want to lend to people, maybe just some words of encouragement if they are struggling, someone they know, whatever it is.
I would say just something I've dealt with a couple people who are interested in getting in the field is just dealing with those mental blocks and the lack of confidence, feeling like especially like with the cybersecurity field, it's all about your belief system, positive affirmations, believe in yourself. You can I know it sounds cliche, but you really can accomplish anything you put your mind to. But you have to believe in yourself first.
Yeah, that's sometimes a tough thing, right?
Yes, I myself have, dealt with the lack of self-esteem and confidence, and I still do sometimes. And again, it's those positive affirmations, having the right people around you, and having those talks with yourself to help you get through those items, and get through those feelings of doubt and disbelief.
Cedric, man, this has been a real pleasure.
Likewise, Jason.
This is the Knocking Doors Down podcast, featuring celebrities, experts, and everyday people who have overcome adversities, including addiction, mental health, and trauma, to live purposeful lives. And that's what Knocking Doors Down is all about.